Alright, this thing is not light. That was not easy getting that onto the trailer. But we got her strapped down. Let's start working on this thing. We're back with part 2 on the vintage military Russian motorcycle. We picked this thing up about a month ago for 1,800 bucks, and the seller stated this bike was sitting for 30 years. He didn't know anything about it, but I guess he paid 25 for it and then sold it the next day for 18. So he didn't want anything to do with this bike. We got back home, we found that the wiring was kind of cobbled together. We replaced the fuses, cleaned up the connections, and we checked for spark. Still no spark. So we went up to the points area up here and cleaned up the points. We were able to get pretty consistent spark, but it was kind of sporadic. So we took up the points plate and found that it was grounding out periodically throughout the rotation. So we cleaned that up, put that back on, and we were able to get consistent spark. We tested the cylinders for compression. We found that there's 85 PSI each cylinder, which is pretty decent for this model of bike. So we had compression, we had spark. Next were the carbs. We went through each carburetor. There's 2 of them. So this carburetor wasn't too bad. We were able to clean that up, get that working. But this one over here was completely missing the float. We looked in the sidecar. Behind here, we found the float. And this is the condition of the old float. It was completely mangled. So that was unusable. We cleaned out the carb and just left the float out of it for testing purposes. We put everything back together, some gas on the carb. We were actually able to get this thing to fire over for a couple seconds. It did not sound very good, and it didn't idle very long, but at least it ran. So that gives us a little bit of hope. So that's kind of where we left off last video. So we know it runs, we just know it runs pretty poorly. So today's goal is to get this thing running and driving and take my dog Vinny for a ride in the sidecar. That's the goal. This thing hasn't been on the road in over 30 years, so it's a stretch, but I think we can maybe do it. We ordered up a couple parts for this thing, brand new carb kits for it, for both carbs. These took forever to get here, that's why this part 2 is taking so long. And I actually ordered up gaskets for it as well, and those gaskets still have not come yet. So we're waiting on those in the mail, hopefully they show up today. But yeah, we got a lot of work on this thing to do today, so let's get going, and hopefully by the end of the video we're cruising around on this thing. We got the jumper hooked up. Looks like we still have lights working. Just wanted to make sure after the long journey back home. So we actually bought brand new plugs for this thing. So let's see if they change colors on us. They should be chocolatey brown. Nope, still white. So you can see how long it ran, not very long. Let's see if we still have spark here. Oh yeah, we've got spark. Good spark on that cylinder. Let's get that plug back in. All right. Let's see if this plug was changing colors. I have a feeling it was running on one cylinder, and that could be due to the carb problems we were having. Let's see. Yeah, look at that one's black. So that cylinder was running a lot better than the other one. Huh. Interesting. So either that cylinder is not sparking at the right time, or it wasn't running at all. Alright, we're getting sparks still. That's a good sign. Alright, so we hooked up new gas lines with filters last video because the gas tank was a little bit rusty, so let's get these off. We'll start working on this carb. Alright, the petcock did work. Can't remember if that was leaking or not. I don't think it was. We'll see if any rust made its way back in. Alright, let's see if there's any gas in here. I can't remember if this is the one with the float or without. I'm gonna find out right now. So this is the carb on the cylinder that was not running. Doesn't look like any gas in there either. But it did have the float. So it looks like that's pretty dry in there. See if any rust comes out. Nope. So I don't think that was getting any gas to it at all. Alright, let's get the carb rebuild kit. Take a look at the float, see if that's the same. So there's the original. And there's the new one. Looks the same to me. That needle's really loose though. But we'll see if that fits in there. There we go. Looks like that's gonna work. No jets and stuff in here. So there's the slide. There's the needle for the slide, gasket, and all these jets. So we can start by replacing this one. Let's see how many turns out that was. One, about one turn out. You can see it's probably good to replace these. A little corroded. So that goes right there. That looks like the idle adjust. New one in. Little screw right here. It's a little jet. That looks a little different than this one. So I don't know if we're going to replace that. Look at this one in here. Get your cap. Alright. Looks the same as that one. So we can replace that. spring and filter. That. Alright, that looks good. And we're gonna get the O-ring off of this one right here and transfer it to the other one, because these are not the same. Little cap. There's that one. Alright, here's the new float. It's going to go in this way with the needle pointing up. It should just slide right in there. Yep. And it should be easy to move up and down in there. See that? So now that's installed, we can get the gasket on. So this can go on just like that. Yeah, that gasket's broken up there. You can hear the float moving up and down. Alright, second carb coming off. So this is the one without the float. Let's try to get that one rebuilt. There we go. Alright, let's take a peek at this carb now. See if there's any gas in here. Carb for the cylinder that was running. And this was without the float. There's nothing in there at all. So I wonder if it wasn't getting much gas. Or maybe it was just leaking out. Take a look at the seat there. Looks pretty clean. So same thing as last carb. Let's just go through everything and replace everything. I think this is just a breather plug. Looks like there's actually a little filter in it, which is very interesting. So find the correct one for that. There it is. You can see this one better. There's like a little screen filter in that. And here's a little jet coming out. New one going in. why those are different lengths. So it was missing this right here. So the float's a little sticky in there. So we're gonna clean this out a little bit better. If that float can't move, it won't shut off the gas. So you want that really nice and smooth in there. We clean that area out, and now it slides out easy. Not sticky anymore. Alright, both carbs are rebuilt. Alright, both carburetors are hooked back up. So let's get the gas lines on. So this gas line is going to go right to here. And then we're going to do this gas line coming from the second nipple on the petcock going to the carburetor over here. Alright, petcock isn't leaking. That's looking pretty good. But down here, we've got a leak from the carb. Looks like it's from the overflow. The other one's not leaking at all. So right there, you can see we took off the cap for where the float goes. As you pour gas in that float area, it should raise that float, and that should shut off the gas. So let's pour some in and see if it does that. Yeah, it's raising the float, but it's still just draining right out. Huh. So the float does move. That's working. So it's nothing to do with the float. Alright, so looking at the carb, pour gas in here. Up to a certain level. And it starts leaking out. See that? And it's leaking out. I'll show you. Right there. So I looked at the other carb, and that actually is supposed to have a brass plug that fits right in there. So we need to plug that up. That's not supposed to be open. So that's why that was leaking. So I'm going to try to look for a little brass piece to punch in there. See if we can plug up that hole. If not, we'll probably have to use some gasket maker. Alright, I think we fixed it. So I found that little brass screw right there. Tap that out, screw that in. And now, we'll pour gas in it. See if it leaks. No leaking yet. Alright, I think that's fixed. So that was the problem. Luckily we had a small enough brass screw. Alright, petcock going on. Gas is flowing. See if we have a leak here now. Not seeing anything. What about on that one? Nope. Alright, that one's filled up too. So we appear to be good. Oh, there's a small leak from the petcock. Very slow leak. that's coming from. All right, before we attempt to start this thing up again, just quick check the oil one more time. Make sure there's enough in there. It's almost overfilled all the way up. So that looks really good. So plenty of oil in there. So it looks like we can attempt to fire this thing up. See what happens. All right, we've got good spark, we've got good compression, and now the carburetors are sealed, not leaking, and functioning properly. So let's see if she fires up now. Oh yeah, that sounds a lot better. It blew off the pipe though. Check this thing out. That blew right off of it. That's not good. So that broke right off. What the heck? Not good. So we're straight piped right now. But we just have to set the idle, and I think this thing might idle. It was really close. As long as I held the throttle open a little bit, this thing was idling great. But I don't know what we're gonna do about this pipe now. What the heck happened here? So I think as this tightens up, it should squeeze that pipe in place. Like that. This goes around that. I think this goes in like that. So I think that squishes down and clamps that pipe as we tighten this up. Let's see. There we go. That's pretty tight. We're gonna adjust the idle here up a little bit. We'll leave that open for adjustment. And I wanted to back this out a little bit more too. One full turn. And then we'll do the other carb. All right, carburetor's adjusted, pipe is back on. Let's see if she fires up. do hear like a squeaking coming from this cylinder. I don't like that too much. But you can see it's burning off all the old oil that was on everything. Yeah, no leaking from the carb at all. This carb's looking good. Revving up completely. And just see if that helps. Hear that squeaking? I don't know if it's the points area or what. Something's squeaking pretty bad. I can't tell. Looks like a little oil is draining out of there. But it's running pretty decent. That keeps on coming down. Maybe that's what it's doing. It's running out of gas. But if you push this, it'll drain more gas in. I think it kind of floods it out. Puts gas into the cylinder. So I think that's the choke. Alright, I'm gonna try to find out where that squeaking noise is coming from. It's not squeaking right now. Big oil leak right there. Coming from the valve cover. Oh, there's that squeak again. What is that thing? Ooh, I think that's a bearing. It is not a good squeak. It gets worse with time. Not great. All right, let's try to fix this valve cover gasket leak here. Oil looks pretty thin. So I think this was getting pinched wrong on there. Alright, so what I did was switch the left-hand gasket with the right-hand gasket. So now we've got the bag gasket on the left-hand side instead of the right. It's just easier to work on this side. So now let's get this cleaned and prepped for gasket maker. So I'm hoping these are coming in the mail today. But for the time being, if they don't, we'll use some gasket maker on them. Alright, so this gasket maker is resistant to gas, oil, coolant, everything. So let's get that on there. Takes a little longer to dry, but makes a better seal. Which way does this go on? All right, while we let that gasket maker dry, let's get the intake on here. This one's gonna go in here. All right, punch cover going back on. This is gonna go on like so. All right, time to get the battery hooked up here. Let's see, which way do we want this to go in? Hopefully this is short enough here. Huh, that might be a little tall. Shoot. I didn't think that was that tall. It's close to working. Looks like it's just a little too tall there. All right, we got the battery to fit. Let's hook that up. Get the sidecar cleaned out for Vinny. I think those are just the old covers. All right, let's get all this vacuumed out. All right, that's pretty cleaned out. The cushion was just completely rotted out. Looks like mice were living in here. All right, we got that gasket maker on here. It looks like the new gaskets actually arrived today in the mail, so we will put those on if that doesn't hold. But let's fire this thing up and see if it works here. look like it's leaking. Cool. I think we're ready for the first ride. We'll give it a shot. See what happens here. I've never ridden a motorcycle with a sidecar before, so this should be interesting. But it's no longer leaking. Everything's tight. So without further ado, let's see if it moves. I wonder if the clutch is gonna work. gonna try to get Vinny to ride. Let's see. Sitting there, buddy. It's nice in there, man. Jumped out. Well, I think Vinny liked it. He's getting comfy in here. Don't you, buddy? You like that ride? That was pretty fun, huh? Yeah, he loves it. He got used to that really fast. He didn't try to jump out at all. So that was pretty good. This thing, the timing has to be off. It won't go past like 40 miles an hour, which is really weird. So I'm guessing it's either running on one cylinder or timing is off a little bit. And it's leaking oil from that same gasket. You can see right there. So we'll have to put the new gasket on. That must have been pinched down here again. It's leaking oil a little bit from right there as well. You can see a little bit of wetness down on the engine case. But I'm not taking off all the cylinders and the head and everything to fix that leak. And it might be coming from right here where the rods go through, the push rods. Can't tell where it's coming from. We'll have to spray it off and run this thing and see where that leak's coming from. But I'm just happy Vinny likes it. He got to enjoy the ride, and I'm just surprised this thing even runs and drives. It was pretty beat on, so it's a miracle in itself as it's moving and the clutch works. Couldn't believe it. And it's starting like first kick every time now, first, second kick. So it's becoming reliable the more we ride it. Kind of funny. Yeah. Kind of a fun little bike to cruise around on. Come on, Vinny. He doesn't want to leave. He wants to go for another ride. Look at him. Come on, Vin. Come. He's like, aren't we going for another ride? Alright, got this thing back in the garage after the first test drive. Obviously a couple things to fix. Let's start with the oil leak. You can see kind of a lot of oil pouring out of there. Here are the gaskets that took a month to get here. Got two of them. So let's get that on. Alright, let's take a look at the plug, see how this thing is running. So last time we looked at this plug, it was completely white. This cylinder must not have been running. Oh yeah, it's really black. So that's running rich, really rich. Look at that. So at least it's running. I'm guessing this one's really black too. Oh no, that one's pretty good. That one's running really good. Look how brown that is. That's perfect. Nice and chocolatey brown on the tip there. So this one's spot on. Well, settings for this carb and that carb are perfectly the same. They were the whole time. So I'm not sure why this cylinder is running way richer than that one over there. Kind of weird. Because that plug is black. But yeah, it could be timing related. It seemed like this thing wasn't revving out completely when at full throttle. So it could be the main jet in there, or it could be timing, like I said. So we'll have to look into that a little bit more. But we are going to pick that up next video. We got this thing running and driving. That was the goal for today. And we'll mess around with tuning the carb and adjusting the timing plate a little bit so that this thing runs perfect. But I'm just surprised this thing runs as good as it does. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Picking this thing up about a month ago for 1,800 bucks, diagnosing it, getting it to run for the first time in 30 years, and then taking it for the first ride. I know Vin enjoyed it. I know I enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it too. So thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing. And until next time, we are out.